But it's easier having everything together than losing people in the fellowship hall. And while you are getting your food ready, I would like to introduce our guest this morning. We have, ladies first, Tracy Bayer, Coordinator of FaithNet Programs and Outreach from NAMI, and Patrick Hess, Peer Recovery Coordinator. I'm glad that both Tracy and Patrick are here. I met both of them before when I visited NAMI, and NAMI is literally 2 minutes, 3 minutes from here, and they can tell you all about it. And then we also had Zoom conversations about it. So I'm really, really glad. Just a little bit of why we are here today. In our welcoming statement, we say that we love all, we welcome all, and we are basically checking all the things except of mental health. And we all know mental health is an increasing challenge in our society. And so the question is, what can we do to help people who are having mental health challenges? And not only as individuals, but also as the church. So last year in the summer, Council decided to have an ad hoc committee, and on that committee is Aaron, who is right there, Ryan Cook, who is right there, on top. Okay, yes. And we have Mark Morrison, who is playing several hats, Lana Patterson, Nevin Longardner, who can't be here today, and Matthew Schmidt, who is in San Diego today. So without further ado, I'm going to, you can arm wrestle. Who wants to come first? Okay, you're on. Tracy, thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me? I didn't think so. Hello? It's on. Okay, can you guys hear me now? Yay! It's like that commercial. Can you hear me now? So I'm Tracy Bayer. I work for NAMI Mid-Ohio, and I'm thrilled to be here today to share a little bit about my story with mental health and what I do for NAMI. And Patrick's going to share a little bit about our support groups and how you guys can get involved with us. So for myself, I was 13 when I first started having symptoms of mental illness. I moved from California to Ohio and experienced a bunch of multiple life challenges and changes at that time. I think it went up. I spent my teenage years in and out of the hospital due to suicide attempts and the hospital becoming a safe place for me. So I had my first son when I was young, experienced significant postpartum depression, which led to a serious attempt on my life again and leaving me in a coma. I had to relearn how to walk, eat, do some different things like that. But once I was stable, I was admitted to an inpatient facility in California for a month. During that time is when God started working on me. I was not raised in the church, but my curiosity peaked at about the age of 18. I realized how God had worked in my life and kept me safe through all these challenges, and that's when I truly believed that I had a purpose on this earth. So let's skip forward many, many, many years to January of 19, and that's when I realized some of my purpose. I was at church that weekend, and much like this Sunday, someone came from NAMI to speak to us about support groups. I had talked with my husband about the potential of starting a support group at our church for people with mental health conditions, so when this opportunity came up, I was very intrigued. I went to gather some information about the NAMI support groups, and someone approached me about facilitating. I thought that was kind of funny because I really needed the group, and they wanted me to help lead it. And come full circle, both of them helped me with both. So I was trained for support group facilitation in January, and we started our support groups in February, the next weekend. So I volunteered for NAMI for about 18 months. I was then asked to come on staff, and about 4.5 years ago, I was hired on as the FaithNet Presentations and Outreach Coordinator. So in this position, I'm responsible for all of our programming that goes on in local churches and religious facilities. That includes all of our FaithNet support groups, classes, and presentations. I'm going to let Patrick talk about our support groups, but our classes include one for those with mental health conditions, as well as another one for family and loved ones, and they're called peer-to-peer and family-to-family. Our presentations are throughout the communities, but I like to focus on faith-based locations so that I can share my story with people during those presentations. But we have a presentation for middle and high school students called Ending the Silence. There is a variety of Ending the Silence for parents of that age group and for staff that works with that age group. And then we also have a presentation called In Our Own Voice, which is one of my favorites. We did that here, actually, with the... Okay. I'm going to eat it, she says. Can you hear me? It feels like it's on. Okay. Now I'm double mic'd. That's a little intimidating. So where was I? In Our Own Voice is a presentation we did here for Stephen's ministry. And it's where two people come and share their story of living with a mental health condition successfully and having hopes and dreams and goals that they can achieve. We also finally have a class or a seminar called Hearts and Minds that we just started this year. You want me on this one? Or this one? This one. Okay. So Hearts and Minds is a 5-week class that we do where it's really the intersection of mental health and physical health and how those come together. Everything you do for your physical body affects your mental health as well, and vice versa. So we do teach about that too. And then I laid a bunch of materials on this front row for everybody. Okay. Okay. Bunch of materials. There is a large stack of NAMI walks information for you guys. NAMI walks, I would not be doing my job if I did not speak about it. It is our largest fundraiser of the year. We have groups get together and create teams that come and walk for mental health awareness. And we do that at Tanger outlets once a year in the spring. And if you guys were interested in getting involved in that at all, we could definitely talk about it. So that's it from me. I'm going to pass it over to Patrick.
I've got a pretty big mouth anyway, so everybody usually hears me okay. My name is Patrick Hess. I'm the peer recovery coordinator at NAMI Mid-Ohio here. My experience, I was the type of difficult person who refused to get help as an adult. When it came to mental health stuff, I was basically trained in the old walk it off kind of method of things, you know, just be a grown-up and be a guy and just pretend it doesn't exist and just go to work and keep it going. It kind of changed for me pretty drastically. I have PTSD, anxiety issues. I'm somewhere on the autism spectrum, so I have sensory related issues also. Like I have something called synesthesia, where basically more than one of my senses get triggered at the same time. These kind of things led me to a lot of maladaptive behaviors over the years that got me to avoid a lot of issues in kind of the worst ways possible. And eventually, I attempted to end my life. It was July 24th of 2021. And that's when I decided that I couldn't not take care of myself any longer. Not just for myself, but for my family and all the other people who went through that with me. And I started to take care of myself, and that's when I encountered NAMI initially. Was actually trying to figure out a healthy way for me to learn how to talk about these sorts of things. And this gives me an opportunity to exercise that, so then it's good for my own mental health, and hopefully it's helpful for other people. I was hired on full-time as part of the staff in June of last year. I lead all of our peer-related services. Tracy went over the kind of classes that we have. I lead the peer classes, the peer-to-peer classes. Also, we have peer-to-peer groups, which these are groups that are led and attended by people who have mental health issues. So all of our staff and everything like that, we all have some sort of lived experience with mental health issues. We're not doctors or therapists or anything like that. We're just people who live with this, either ourselves or our family members every day. And that's where my niche kind of fits in when it comes to our peer groups and things like that, is I just kind of make sure that those can continue running. And we have, Tracy was nice enough with all the other stuff she brought. We've got a schedule up here that have all of those. But we don't just have peer groups either. We also have family groups, which are for family members of somebody who's suffering with a mental health issue, just like our classes. And basically, these help the people that are closest to individuals with mental health issues figure out where to go from their perspective in their environment. That's not my particular niche, since I am the person with the issue, but I know that I presented unique challenges to my family because of my own mental health issues, and I wish that we'd come upon some of these programs earlier when I was younger. That's most of the information there. Tracy actually kind of knocked out a lot of the stuff. Is like, we got to talk about NAMI walks. You know, it's great that it's nice community festival, not just a walk either. You know, a lot of vendors, tables, things like that. Somewhere you can bring the whole family and have a good time, and help support making sure that people get the help that they need without the stigma.
What I appreciate about NAMI is that both of you but you have had a history of yourself, so you know what it feels, and not just textbook material. And so briefly, can you tell us what NAMI offers, where you are located, how much does it cost? This is number A. And number B, if we as a church would be willing to offer support groups, what does that entail? Thank you.
Loud enough for me to hear. I didn't mean that. Yeah, whatever. Okay, so all of our programming costs $0. We are grant funded and funded by the board, so all of our programming is free to the public. If you guys were interested in getting involved and hosting a support group, it usually takes about a year for a support group to get established and get people interested in knowing that it's going on. And we like to train people from the host location as the support group leaders. You would have, obviously, support from NAMI throughout, and more than likely, you would have a facilitator, one of us, more than likely.
More than likely one of us.
Come alongside you and start the group up as well. Training is 2.5 days, give or take a couple hours. It's done by a state training, and we happen to have 3 state trainers at NAMI Mid-Ohio. So if you guys were interested in starting this, we would be able to get you trained pretty much right away. We have both family and the peer support group facilitator trainers. So either side of kind of the spectrum that you're looking at, or both, we would be able to get you guys trained pretty quickly. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, I think I'm the most recently trained on the staff anyway. Basically, it's about 2.5 days, as she said. We go in the first day. We actually participated. We did kind of a group inside the class in order to see how it goes. And then we go through, we have, actually I have materials in the car, but we have basically books for our facilitators and stuff, these little flip chart books, in order for us to know, in a pinch, what's the best way to maybe handle this? Because we try to run all of our programs the same way, no matter where they are in the country. So we have a lot of these charts and things like that to help the facilitator, but you go through training and you're basically spending a lot of time on each particular one, how to use it, when to use it, basically how to handle some of the difficult conversations that are going to come up when people come to a group for support.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I could just use the teacher voice. Okay. So I was wondering, after the 2.5 days, what kind of time commitment is there for facilitators?
That's a really good question. It would depend on the group and the person who wanted to facilitate in general. The commitment for facilitating afterwards is for 1 year. I was being more specific. That's the autistic part of my brain.
It depends on if you're,
Day, month to month, that kind of thing. How many hours a month does it look like?
if you guys have your group like once a month, it would be approximately 2 hours, like a half hour before to set up your hour-and-a-half group, and then everybody leaves at the same time, so that's easy.
One more question, please. Is this all in person or can it be Zoom?
So far, it's all in person. We've been discussing potentials for doing these online, but we haven't made any solid decisions on that yet. I can also say, just to add to what Tracy was saying about the time commitment, like we have a couple groups running pretty much right across the street here on Maxtown at Heritage Christian Church, and it's entirely led by volunteers that have been trained in the church. And they kind of rotate members in the church so that they can have a couple of them each month, and no one person ends up, stuck doing a whole lot of hours of group.
Ma'am.
After it's established, what kind of oversight is there with NAMI to help kind of make sure that we're following everything okay, but also if anything, troubles come up and things like that?
That when it comes to the groups, there's I'm on one side, I'm the peer side. I make sure I go and I sit in, even if we've got volunteers somewhere, I make sure I sit in and I participate with the other people and just make sure everything's going on. I'm available. Basically, whenever anybody needs, if they have questions, they call me. My direct supervisor, Jenny, is in charge of our family support group stuff, and she does pretty much the same thing. A whole bunch of other stuff that I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, if you were a facilitator.
Oh, that's a rare occurrence.
If you were a facilitator, you would probably get at least quarterly emails from Ginny. She likes to send out emails to all the facilitators with your schedule, contact information, so that if you can't make it one time, you can talk with somebody else and see if they'll cover for. Worst case scenario, you call the office and say, hey, I can't make it.
Yeah. And just next month, we have a refresher for all of our facilitators, and everybody's gonna come in. I think we're gonna have with some snacks and stuff, and go over, basically go over everything and make sure everybody's on the same page, make sure everybody's got updated materials and stuff for them.
Why do you think churches should offer it if you already have it? So what's the difference between faith net groups to the groups you're offering in your office?
So the FaithNet groups, I think, are most important for those of us that have faith in our lives. If we go to a regular support group, we'll say, and I'm facilitating in a library, NAMI would not like me to discuss my faith. If someone brings up their faith as part of their journey, I'm allowed to discuss with them. But if we had a support group here, we would talk with you guys, find out what all of your beliefs and everything like that. We would want to go by your rules and guidelines and what you believe, and that you guys are very open and accepting. And so we would want to have a group that's open and accepting, and one where we can talk about our faith. So that's why it's most important. I feel it's most important in a church.
I think that on top of, like, regardless of how many support groups there might be already that people could attend, I think people are a lot more comfortable attending a lot of these types of things when it's with people in a community that they're comfortable with also. So you might have people that go to the church that might not otherwise go and participate in a support group who would come and participate just because of the familiarity. Just as much, I mean, I'm sure there's people that would go the opposite side that would rather go somewhere where people don't know them to talk about it. But I think both sides are really important. I know for me personally, being the difficult type to go and get help, that finding a comfortable place to do so was definitely a huge factor in me beginning to do so myself.
So during a support group in a meeting, if there is a crisis situation, are the facilitators trained in
Yes.
what to do?
Yes.
How is this?
Yeah, basically, it's a very clear kind of checklist when the crisis situation comes up that we need to follow in order to make sure that everybody's safe and that nobody comes into group and then leaves in a worse state than they were when they got there.
And there's always two of us for that reason.
Yes.
So that if you were in crisis, one of us could leave with you and talk one-on-one with you while the other one continues the group.
Yes.
So.
I'm assuming that I answer that. If there's a support, if we had a difficult session, and we're facilitators.
Can you speak up, please, Putin?
Do you offer support like immediate? I have a really difficult facilitation of a group, and I'm in crisis post that.
Yeah.
Who can I talk to?
That has happened, unfortunately. There's a facilitator checklist also to go through at the end of groups that you can grab your co-facilitator and go through, okay, how am I feeling now? What do I need to talk about? And then worst case scenario, call one of the leaders,
Yeah.
at NAMI.
That's one of the things. It's just when you with your co-facilitator there with you to help make sure everything's okay. If everything's still not okay, obviously I've picked up the phone for a couple of those over the past year, and it's bound to happen if since we all we train people who have lived experience in order to help be part of these groups as well as to facilitate them in the first place. So it's not something that's super common that I've seen since I've been involved, but when it does happen, we've got a lot of safety nets to make sure everybody's taken care of and they're good, because that's what we're here for in the first place.
Forgive me if you said this. Is NAMI national? Is it Franklin County? What is
Our affiliate is NAMI Mid-Ohio, but there is a national, like a NAMI national organization and a state organization. There's a NAMI Ohio.
There's NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, and then there are 50 state organizations, and there are 800 affiliates within the U.S. So we just cover 3 counties at Mid-Ohio.
what three?
Delaware, Morrow, and Union counties.
And there is a NAMI Franklin County. Since we border with them, we want to try and work with them,
Well, you guys are all on our side of the road anyway.
Yes, we are on this side of County Line. Thank goodness. Yeah, any other questions? questions for us? Yes.
Since you're helping folks
Speak up,
with,
please, Julie, I can't hear you.
sorry, since you're helping folks with mental challenges and families, do you have other resources that you connect them to for further support, or if they need more intense support for what they're going through?
Yeah, you were saying, just to make sure I heard you right, asking if we had other resources since we do assist with these types of things. And yeah, actually, we've got quite a lot. Tracy has brought a whole lot herself up here to put up here, and that's our helpline pamphlet there. I always mess up whether they're pamphlets, leaflets, or what. Brochures. Yeah. But I've spent a lot of time, it's one of the benefits to having people with lived experiences. I spent a lot of time having to find my way through a lot of these things myself. So I kind of collect resources now in addition to the ones that I need for myself. But a lot of times if somebody calls and it's one of these 3 counties, especially inside of Delaware County, I had to basically go from living in the street and trying to end my life all the way back to a functional adult again. So I know you can find quite a lot of different things, and I'm willing when anybody ever calls, and I've left some of my cards up here too for everybody. If anybody ever calls me and says, hey, I need a place to find this, I'm gonna do my utmost to make sure that they find it, because I've been batted off enough myself that I don't want anybody to feel like they put in that call for help and that somebody just didn't care. So.
Sometimes medication is helpful.
Can you speak up, please?
Sometimes medication is helpful.
Medication or meditation?
Medication.
With the K, with the C.
And sometimes it's essential.
Yeah.
So how have you been trained to build a bridge to, I guess, psychiatrists who would, and doctors who would assist?
Well, I would say for the most part, when it comes to the medication route, since we're not trained ourselves, like we don't advocate or advise anybody on any of their medications because we're just not qualified for it. But we do partner with a lot of facilities like Southeast Healthcare and Centero and Maryhaven and stuff like that. And a lot of times when it comes to questions, somebody wants to talk about medication or an actual licensed therapist or something like that, and that's usually when we hand them resources of where they can find those things.
Specifically, when you get together with these meetings and you have a facilitator, could you walk through about how it's handled or how it's conducted with everybody in the group? Particularly as how things are discussed or how you start.
Okay, so you're basically wanting to know how each group kind of runs, like the system. Okay, that's a fantastic question. Basically, at the beginning of every single group that we have a check-in period where everybody, first we go over our group guidelines and the principles of support. This is the beginning of every group, and then we go through and everybody has a couple minutes to check in and talk about how they're feeling, what their week was, share their diagnoses, whatever they came to the group and they feel comfortable sharing. If they just want to share their name and just sit out of it, then they're welcome to do that also. After everybody's checked in, that's when the facilitator uses basically what they would learn in our training in order to basically pick which is the most urgent thing. You're basically triaging the situation. And we begin the discussion part with that person. And then we kind of go through and using the information we get from the check-in, try to go through and make sure everybody gets some time to talk about those things in the order that, how pressing they are, how close this person might be to, an absolute crisis. At the end, we try to, 10, 15 minutes left of the group, bring everything back to something positive so that people don't walk out in a bad state. So we usually focus either on our principles of support or just something good that we're going to, plan to do over the next week for ourselves. That's probably about the basic overview.
Are there subgroups, like for example, if someone goes to one of these groups and you have several
Yeah, currently we don't have any that are specifically catered to any specific mental illness. It's more of the shared experience of trying to live with a mental health condition and to be supportive to each other in the good and the bad times for them.
We used to have a support group in Sunbury that the facility wanted to offer it for anxiety and depression.
Okay.
So if that was a desire of the church to do, focus on something, then absolutely, we are, able to do that. But we like to try and keep it open to everybody so that we can help everybody as much as possible and not filter people out because they don't have a certain, diagnosis.
How do you fold in if you do recovery from an addiction?
Well, those are, how do we fold in with addiction, right? Basically, I like to think, and this is entirely my opinion here, I think that it's pretty generally thought of that they're kind of two sides of the same coin, your mental health and issues with addiction. We're only trained to facilitate support groups specifically about mental health issues. But we do, like I said, we do have partners that do have addictions treatment centers and groups and things like that also. And we can then provide resources for more specialized treatment for drug addiction that way.
We also have a lot of members that come to support groups that do deal
Yeah.
with both. And so often, like alcohol or drug abuse will be brought up during our support groups. And as a facilitator, you just let the group talk it out.
Yeah.
And often they're able to help each other with questions and situations where I don't have the personal experience of, drug or alcohol use, so I'm not going to be the best person to talk to you about it, but so-and-so over here lives it,
You have separate groups for youth?
So NAMI is 18 and up, so all of our support groups are for adults. And we do have a program that we're trying to get back online that's for parents of youth that struggle, but we don't have support groups for youth themselves.
I think that feeds into what I was wondering. If you're a parent and you have a child, so that would be something I could attend.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But is there anything separate and distinct, different enough, that would warrant something different for the parent or the grandparent or?
I like that you brought that up, grandparents, because we're really trying to focus on coming alongside grandparents, and many grandparents are very much involved in their grandchildren's lives now, and they struggle. So, but our family support groups are going to be the best place to kind of get involved, or our family-to-family classes, because those are all parents, spouses, loved ones of some kind of someone with a mental health condition. Thank you.
Yeah, our affiliate itself was started by from a parent who just couldn't find resources and like-minded people in the community to try to figure out how to get through her struggle.
You mentioned classes. Sorry, you mentioned classes just now. What's the difference between a support group and a class?
Classes run for a specific period of time. Like, for instance, our peer-to-peer class runs for 8 weeks, and it's about 2 hours per week for the class, so, like 16 hours total. I think families are a little bit longer, 2.5 hours. Those are 8 weeks also? Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, family classes are 8 weeks also. But it's a closed session. You get a book, you go through and you gain some information specific to which type of class that you're going to go to for it. And that's usually, it's a good starting point a lot of times, and hopefully feeds into people coming back and taking advantage of the groups and stuff also, because then they can use some of what they've learned and continue to receive support.
Would you be willing to share if you are aware of any situations where somebody was doing support groups that didn't work out for them, or things didn't go well and they stopped, or anything like that that you are aware of?
As a facilitator or as a member?
As a facilitator
So a facilitator, it didn't work out for them to continue facilitating.
I guess. I'm thinking more, I guess, about the location. Has there been any people, organizations that started doing this that decided to stop down the road for whatever reason?
The only thing I can think of is the one that I mentioned in Sunbury that was anxiety and depression. We were probably there for a year and a half, 2 years, and just nobody was showing up. So
Okay.
sometimes that happens.
I was asked, why should we offer a class maybe here if there's a class already down the road? And the reason why I think it would be important to start a class here is because, as far as I know, we are the only church openly in our community, open and affirming for the LGBTQ community. So to have a safe space where maybe at another church people would not be as safe just because of who they are, than to talk about mental health challenges on top of it. So, because you can easily say, well, there's one there, why don't you go there? So that would be,
Sure, if people are comfortable coming in here already,
yeah.
that would just open the doors for them. Absolutely.
That's usually most of our classes that have the most people sitting in them they come from pre-established, places that, it's because people already are comfortable and they're already going to that place in the first place. And it's kind of like a snowball down a hill effect. You got a couple people that and you're comfortable around and they're gonna go. And then you suddenly might feel a little bit more comfortable yourself to go. And if it's already, inside of a venue that you already frequent, then.
Another question I have for you, how often do support groups meet? Once a month, twice a month, or?
It depends on the group. It depends on what's right for the group. Like I said, we've got our very first handout here up front is for, it's got our schedules for our groups. Like we have groups, I have one on the pier side that's every Monday, but then I have one that's the first and third Tuesday every month, and the first and third Thursday each month, second and fourth Thursday each month. It gets catered to basically what you guys, if you were going to have a group here, what you felt that you needed. It might, be good to start off if you wanted to start doing that with maybe like 1 or 2 a month, and then just see, basically how popular it was for people.
Mark?
I was wondering if somebody, so let's say we signed up for this as a church, how would we get the word out, I guess? Available. Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, there's definitely a couple. I'm actually been slowly making a lot more of our handouts and stuff that we go. We'll definitely promote on our end any groups that we have or classes, and also if you mobilize your awesome congregation. I got to sit in on your service today. You've got a very large sized awesome congregation here. If everybody walked out with just 1 or 2 flyers, you could probably hit the whole neighborhood in an afternoon, and that would really get the word out. Yep.
We do have social media and stuff like that we promote as well.
To get a group going, do you generally start with the classes and offer the class because they sort of lead to a group? Or I'm just kind of wondering how to, once you get the word out, how do you get a group really rolling?
It's always a good question. The classes can definitely lead to a group, support group afterwards, kind of easier. Sometimes just doing a presentation will get enough people interested that a support group can start from that. So, it really depends on what the goal, what the desire of the location, of the host location is. If you guys wanted to get a group going right off the bat, we would do tons of marketing and, flyers and post them, wherever they have post boards anymore, online, things like that. So it's really a question that you could kind of consider either way. Because if we did do a class, you would have hopefully 10 or 12 people automatically starting that. Now, whether they want to continue on in a support group fashion afterwards, kind of likely, but not necessarily.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Some people are more fond of that private setting with a professional. Some people like a kind of semi-private thing with another peer, and then other people they really like the group dynamic the most. I found that different settings are, I think of them as different tools in my toolbox of what I'm going through at a particular time. So, yeah.
I have another question. From your experience, what is better, family support, like the peer-to-peer, or for those who are affected by mental illness?
I wouldn't venture to guess the one being better. I think they're both extremely necessary. I think that obviously people with mental health issues need support, and I think what's lesser thought about these days is how much the family members might need support in order to get through it while this person's going through their own issues.
Yeah, I'm not sure one is better or easier to start with or the other. Just kind of like whatever you guys want to start with, or start with both,
Yeah.
It's always an option too.
And have you had groups where family members meet in this room and those who are affected meet in this room so that everybody feels safe? But
Yeah.
you only have to use one car?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's when we do that. What the first and third Thursdays every month we have groups. It's a family group on one side and a closed room, and a peer group in the other one, and they're held at the exact same time.
Do you ever have family members just go to the peer group?
Typically, we don't want the family members to be sitting in the peer group because that's kind of the safe place for the individuals. That's usually we have them direct them to the family support groups. That way, everybody's got that safe space to speak in.
Any other questions? Now is the time. I feel like. Or anything else you would like to know? Or any of our committee members who like to know? I see Aaron and Mark is there. I don't want to be the only one speaking out.
Well, you guys got rolling pretty good after you got some of them coming out.
I do have another question for you. Of course, if you're quiet, then you hear me. If we were interested in offering support groups, how many people would we have to have committed to say we want to be trained so that it is effectively? If we were to offer a group like twice a month, I was thinking about, that how many people would you need from us?
Probably like for each type of group, probably for like each type of group, maybe two.
Okay.
We need two facilitators to run a group. That way, that would be the bare minimum. Then even if one called off or anything like that, that's typically where I'd pick up the phone and I'd come and I'd do it. So
because I mean, people that go on vacation, get sick, or
yeah.
whatever, just.
And we're constantly training people as well to lead support groups, and sometimes they get plugged into one right away, and sometimes they're there as a backup. So
yeah. We have a mentorship program also that allows us to kind of have somebody sit in and train with one of us for, up to a year, without, before they go through the training. That way they can begin earlier than necessarily the next state training would be available.
You said two. Can you have more than that, and then they just do it on a rotating?
Yeah,
basis?
absolutely. That's the most preferable, I would imagine, for everybody, because then, you get your, maybe it's like you and somebody else the first one of the month, and then two other people the second one, just kind of like the other church we talked about, and they just kind of rotate through, and it's our best in my. I don't want to pick a favorite child or anything there, but that's since I came on board, that church and their groups that's the best that out of all of them that we have that they run is in the church there. So
Now a question to all of you who were here today. First of all, thank you, and thank you to you. From what you have heard so far, would you be willing to, would that be an opportunity, would you think our church would like to do to offer support groups? If you think so, can you just raise your hand? I just want to get a count. Okay, so it's my vice moderator. I put it up to you to say this way how many people were here, and I just want to get a feeling. How does it, if I feel like at the beginning of my flow chart, where are we going from here? Now that we heard the information, we need time to think about it. What does it mean? If we go this way, and then how else?
Is there a way to inform congregations, so say you get this going, and whether you have these groups, NAMI or not, how to teach a congregation, how to somehow let them know that there are people all around them with mental health issues?
I think you just talk about it.
yeah,
Isn't that Mental Health Awareness Month? I think it's in May or
yeah, May.
yeah. So, May we all think about vacation and Mother's Day and graduation. Well, not everybody is happy with it. So we just talk about it. I think that's, if you want to start something, you have to advertise it. And I know of another church who had these classes, and they had first offered support groups, and they were dwindling off, and then they had to decide, do we want to continue or not if only one person is coming?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's then, we are not there yet. We are starting over here. And when we get to that junction, we need to think about what are we going to do if we hit that junction. And I don't want to cross the bridge while we're over here. And now, so thank you for your support, that you would be willing to support an idea. Now let me ask the other question going from my flow chart. How many of you being here would be interested in being a facilitator? Okay. So we have at least a handful, which is good. And no pressure at all. I'm not going to call you this afternoon and say, sign up here. I just wanted to get a feel, because it's one thing to say I support it in general, and another totally different thing to say I'm committing myself to at least 2.5 days of training. And then we go from there. Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for this group? Like, what do we do now?
No, I just like to thank everybody for being here and having this conversation in the first place, because
So
it's
how do we go
one that
on
I think
now?
people should
So
have everywhere.
now that we know, okay, we are here, we want to do something, so what are the next steps?
I think you guys need to decide if you want to do a support group, if you want to do a family support group, or what we call connections or peer support group, or both.
Okay.
And you would have to, who's going to facilitate for peers, who's going to facilitate for family, and kind of gauge that interest. If you've got most of the people here want to be a facilitator for a family support group, then maybe start with that one.
Yeah.
So which one is easier?
None of them.
Yeah.
Going deep with the big toe first. Father, clean the bathrooms.
Yeah, once it comes to support, it's like, I was like, once it comes to support, people typically go for support for the easy stuff.
We don't know.
I don't think there's an easier one necessarily. I think our classes, our family-to-family class will fill up before a peer-to-peer
Yes.
class does. So,
A lot more loving family members want to be involved and help than a lot of my peers who we're kind of stubborn when.
And so for the family, does that mean, because they're adults to adults, so if I have children still living with me under age 18, the siblings could not attend, but only the parents or aunts and uncles and grandparents. Is that correct?
Just anybody 18 or over.
Okay. Because, I mean, that's just important to know. And so would that be for the training as well as for the support groups? Okay. Any other questions you might have? This is the time. Fine, you up there? Any questions you might have? Okay. Okay, Julie, I want to make sure people are heard.
Okay, I have one more that's sort of for the church, like if we decide we want to take this on, what kind of decision-making process are we gonna go through? Like, how are we gonna be able to, because we're a small group here of our greater congregation, how do we stay transparent with our decision-making and support of that decision?
So we would go to council, and our vice moderator is right sitting there, so he's taking notes right now, and you have other council member here as well, and so and council is a decision-making group. Our little ad hoc group, who invited both Tracy and Patrick, we report to council. So at the next council meeting, we would report, you were here, about so many people were in attendance, this is what we talked about, we would like to go forward, what next? Yeah? And our little ad hoc group meets in a couple of weeks again. We said, we first wanted this to see where we're going with this. I can tell you, without telling any secrets, we have a new crocheter in our midst. Mark Morrison, would you please just show what you made? Here, we are going to make fidget toys. Come on,
I actually didn't bring mine this time.
The way that I make repairs to our house, I just looked up YouTube, and I made these crochet fidgets last night. It's the first time I've ever crocheted.
Yeah.
It just keeps coming.
It's a never-ending, like a Mobius.
Yeah.
So, and we have our yarn buddies, which are ladies in our church who like to crochet. I sent them the YouTube video, and our hope is to have fidget toys available out of yarn because they're nice and cozy. And if anybody would like to sit and do something while listening, I know I always do something, with a pen or whatever I have on, or with a cup, or for people who need that in order to be calmer. So our aim is to have those available, similar to the little baggies we have for the kids. And then at the end of the service, you just return them. And because they're made out of yarn, we wash them. And if you happen to take one home, not a big deal, just make another one. So that's another way of trying to educate everybody. Everybody is welcome, regardless if you need something in your hands to be calmer than not, especially with people who have sensory issues. It can get really, really hard just to sit.
That's why most of the time people see me walking around with a puzzle cube.
Yeah, and do whatever you need to do in order to refocus. Yeah? So that's one of the aims. I want to play with open cards here, what we have been talking about.
So we would need to decide if we want to do the peer-to-peer or the family or both. We would
Correct.
need to decide.
My suggestion would be go small, start small, and then you can grow, instead of starting big and then you have to reduce. That would be my preference. And what I hear you say, Tracy, is that the family groups are the most sought after.
Yeah.
And so my suggestion would be to start with those first, that we have people who would go to the training, and then out of the training, and I always want to check in with people, how do you feel now? We don't want to sign a contract which locks us down, and after the training to see, how does it feel now? Would you still be comfortable with that? Okay, then try the next step. And if you're then, okay, what would with the times? How many days do you want to do it? Look at our calendar. Huh? So from small, grow wider. Okay. Any other questions you might have? And sorry, Mark, that I put you on the spot with the crochet. I just think it's so cool. I like that. Look it up on YouTube, and here you go. Really cool. So when are the next training sessions?
May,
May.
I think, is the next state training, but like I said, we have state trainers at our affiliate, so we can schedule it.
Okay.
If we have enough people interested, we can schedule it.
How many people do
anytime.
you need?
I would say 3 or 4
Okay.
for a family support group.
Okay. So you heard it. What are going to be the 2.5 days? Would that be Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Usually, but
Yeah.
since we're doing it in-house, we can divide it up 5 evenings, you know, like whatever works best, but it's
Okay.
usually a Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Any other questions while we have our guests here?
When's NAMI's fundraiser again?
May
17th.
17th.
Week after Mother's Day.
There's lots of flyers for you
Yeah.
to take.
It's like St. Patrick's Day, but May.
Yeah. I want to thank you for coming here, for sharing your personal story. And both of you are an example how God can work through people. And we're really, truly grateful that God saved you, literally speaking.
Yeah, that's funny. I carry around a tree of life pretty much everywhere I go, because the place and the day that I tried to end my life was watching the sunset over this tree. I was going over there, and I was like, well, this is the place where I die. And it was, ever since then, I thought, I was like, well, there's a lot of different ways that people can be born again, because I died very surely that day, and I also got up and I walked away.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, you are an example of what Easter can look like. You know, you nearly died, and here you are, rising, not only in the physical sense, but giving hope to other people, a new life because of who you are. So thank you. Can we just
Thank you, guys.
so much to Lana and Mark and Ryan for the food. And I'd like to close with a prayer, and any other questions, please see these wonderful people and help yourself for the brochures, flyers, whatever you make, leaflets, whatever they are.
Whatever we want to call them today.
Yeah. Let us pray. Gracious God, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to have both Tracy and Patrick here to tell their stories from death to life, and how we can be participant and join other people to find life again, especially in this scary time. Be with us right now, and we want to join whatever it takes so that other people can be Easter people as well. Be with them, be with the people who are involved with NAMI, and let them always know there is hope. Hope for everyone, and that you give everyone dignity and everyone reason to live, today, tomorrow, and all days there be. In Christ's name, amen. Thank you so much for being here. And you have my email, you have my phone number, and I will contact you. Help yourself. Please make yourself listed some lunch.